Hello, everyone. In this video, I have invited our guest, Joe Johnson, to join me to talk about how to find a good company and how to find a good manager in your interview process. So Joe had years experience as a senior recruitment consultant. She's also a communication coach. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Diana. Great to be here and to help out.
That's wonderful. Your sound is a little bit low. I wonder
okay.
If that can be adjusted.
There we go. Is that better?
Slightly better. Maybe just
Great.
Project your voice stronger.
Yeah, no problem at
Excellent.
all.
Excellent. So, and Joe, as you may already noticed in our group, some people, they're very timid. And when they go through job interview process, one of the fear they have is, what if I join a company and they realize this manager doesn't care about my career development, doesn't even care about my well-being, and just give me more and more work, and I can't handle, I will have to leave. So as in terms of that situation, what would you recommend as good tips to help them to filter out these kind of managers or companies?
Yeah, it's a good question because sometimes, sometimes it's challenging to get that information out of somebody without, being too personal, I suppose, and diving into how, what their management style is really like. And, in interviews, we're all in our best behaviour. So that's the hard part. But, there are some things that you can do to maybe get kind of 80 or 90% of the way there. And the first thing I would do is definitely ask them about their management style. So how do they describe their management style? And within that, you'll get some clues. Now, again, you hope that they tell the 100% truth, but, human nature. But you will get some clues. So if a manager says, I'm very directive and I really want my team to follow process, we all have a job to do, that sort of thing, well, then that may set off a few little alarm bells for you.
Yes.
Because if you're the type who doesn't respond well to micromanagement, who has aspirations to do other things, to be a bit more proactive, then that sort of management style, a manager who says, we've all got a job and we do our job, that's probably not going to work. So just simply asking about management style is going to give you some clues. The other thing you can do is to be really, again, on the front foot about it and tell the manager what sort of worker you are, in that you can say, I'm really an independent worker. I'm very good at being given a task and then running with it on my own. I'm really proactive once I'm done with my role, my jobs or my tasks. I'm really good at looking for other things to do. I'm great at mentoring and supporting others in the team. Is that something that you would support? Right? So put that stuff out there and then ask them if that's something that they see as a positive or that they would support in the team. And if they're like, oh, holy cow, great, that's fantastic, I'm looking for someone who's going to be the next team leader, or someone who can step up and be proactive, and someone who can do my role when I'm on leave, those sorts of things are really positives that will help you to go, oh, okay, maybe they will look after my career journey a bit better, or maybe they will be supportive of me being progressive in this organisation. So simply asking the question of their management style, but then also being confident to offer how you like to work, is going to get you a long way to understanding what they're like.
Excellent. That's great tips. And throughout your years doing recruitment, can I ask, what are the common behaviors of a good manager would do in the interview?
Yeah, so a great manager is going to, they're going to have that really good balance of being both, generous with information about the team, about the business. They're going to offer stuff not just about, what's happening right under their remit, but what's going on more broadly.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to comfortably answer the question, what's the culture like in this organisation? They should nail that because as a manager, they should be living and breathing that.
Yeah.
So being generous with that information, but on the flip side, they also need to be a good listener.
Yeah.
So if you're in the interview and they've done 90% of the talking, you could be in trouble.
That happened to my members before.
Yeah. And it does happen a lot because, depending on who they are, personality type, where they fit in the matrix of things, they can get a bit of an ego. You might find that they're quite narcissistic or whatever, and then all they want to do is talk about themselves. And in an interview, a really good manager should be a great listener because they're there to find out about you. Yeah, they're there to find out about you. The other thing is that they shouldn't be just working through a series of questions, kind of question 1, question 2, question 3, and just, getting your answer and writing it down. Again, an active listener will ask a follow-on question from something that you've said. So something that's not on their list of, prescribed questions, because it shows that they're really listening to what you're saying and that sparked some curiosity about another part of either your experience or, your personality or whatever it is. So really good active listening skills, someone who can really describe that culture and someone who can, talk about the organisation more broadly, not just their own piece.
Excellent. That's good advice. And I always tell my student that 3 key employers' characteristics they should be looking for in the new job should be good manager, because the good manager will make huge difference to your career development. And second thing is about the career advancement or professional development opportunity this company potentially could give you. The third thing is the work-life balance. And especially with nowadays, there's a lot of change and some companies restructure their team. Suddenly 3 or 4 roles come on and the manager will make changes to each role. And that work-life balance will always be a question before you join the company. So around the work-life balance, if someone if managers say, oh, we're quite busy here, sometimes we may need you to do overtime. And if people want to know exactly what that means, because overtime, if it's 2 hours every Wednesday or it's 10 hours a week, it's totally different thing they ask for, isn't it? Yeah. So what would be nice questions you think they can ask the manager, not showing, oh, I don't want to do any overtime, but also actually understand what the commitment they ask for.
Yeah. Well, look, like anything, the recent past is often a projection of what's going to happen in the future in an organisation in terms of that sort of, time management expectation. So what I would do is I would ask them, what's a typical week look like for people in your team in terms of, extra projects, additional hours, flexibility around work hours, that kind of thing, and kind of couch it around what does that typically look like in your team. And then they could go off on a couple of different tangents, but, they hopefully will say something like, well, my senior accountants, I tend to work, maybe an extra hour or 2 just at, whatever, quarter end or something like that. And when it comes to year end, of course, we all put in, but then I give them a couple of days off first week of July, something like that. So you'll get a sense of what the flow of the time management looks like. So just simply asking them. And again, it's not a question of, I don't want to do this. It's just a curiosity. And you can even say it that way, I'm curious. Are your team members typically doing a lot of overtime? Is there a flexibility in the way that is dealt with? Do you get time in lieu? Do you pay overtime? And then just, with a caveat, I'm really willing to do overtime. I'm just trying to ascertain what that looks like. And, actually I was talking with one of your team members the other day about this sort of similar question. And there was a bit of a hesitation around, I don't want to say too much about my home life because they might think I don't want to do overtime. And the truth was she didn't want to do too much, and that's perfectly fine. But I said there are ways, again, of gently introducing that when you talk about things that you might do outside of work. So you might say, oh, look, I compete in, 4 marathons a year, so I'm really busy training during the week, or I've got 5 children, so, they keep me busy. But, and those little clues will also help the person that you're sitting opposite to understand, oh, okay, wow, they've actually got a busy life. Maybe I need to really think about how and how I roster their work, or what's going to work for them flexibility wise. Because some young single people without a family, without too many hobbies, happy to work more hours in the week because they get more money, right? And it shows dedication, whatever, that perception thing. That's fine. Someone maybe who's got 5 children and runs a marathon every other month doesn't have a lot of spare time. And so maybe for them, instead of doing the overtime, they just make sure that they're there, absolutely working focused on their time, but they love getting that extra day in lieu or whatever it is so that they can go to their kids' event or whatever. So there's a lot of different ways to really, work a work-life balance at the moment. I think COVID has shown us that. A lot of people have been working from home. A lot of organisations are saying, hey, come back in a hybrid manner, whatever works for you. So there's much more flexibility now than there ever has been, I would say, to be able to ask those questions. This works for me. Is there flexibility around this? What's the expectation of your team? And again, just dropping in some of those hints around things that you do outside of work can help the manager go, oh, okay, well, they're that kind of person. And it's not going to put them off. So don't be scared of dropping those things in. Everybody has a life outside of work, right? Let me tell you, everybody has a life outside of work. And again, a decent manager wants you to have that balance, right? You need to hear that. A good manager wants you to have a balanced life, because then you're going to be a better worker. So if all you say to them is, I'm here, I'm available 100 hours a week, right? That's actually not a positive. It's not a positive in this day and age. Yeah, so you really need to, as part of the conversation, just really drop that stuff in there. It's part of your personality as well. If they know that you've got, a busy family life and you're really dedicated sports person, whatever, they're going to get a great worker, because you're going to be fit, you're going to be healthy, you're going to be balanced. So those are actually really positive things.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel some of people have the wrong belief. If they make the manager believe they actually have a busy life, they're not qualified for the job. So they somehow too afraid to show who they are and what life they live outside of work.
Yeah.
But funny thing is, sometimes with some company, part of the interview, they actually have small chat with you about what you do in your spare time, because they're very people focused. They got very relaxed culture, and they want someone who enjoying life and who's happy.
Absolutely. And you need to fit in. Again, this conversation came up the other day. We're all human beings. We're not just human doings, right? That's an old phrase, but it's really true. And you've got to remember that a company is hiring a human, not a robot, right? They're not hiring someone just to press the buttons and go home at 5 o'clock. They need people who fit in, who they're comfortable having lunch with, who's going to contribute more than just numbers to the business, who's going to be an ideas person or have some strategic input, or, be creative or make people laugh, or, everybody has a dynamic in an organization. And, we all end up taking on that role, just as in a classroom at school. There's the class clown, there's the smart one, there's the nerdy one, there's the sporty one. Everybody has a role in life, and you can't, a good organization and a good manager is going to want someone who they can get along with, who they know will fit into the team, who will be contributing beyond just their job.
Excellent. Yes, I totally agree. Another thing we talked about, people would like to have their professional development in the next job. And sometimes they ask the wrong question. They ask, oh, what's my next step in the team, or what's my career advancement in your company? But if that's a small company, they only got 3 people in the finance team or 2 people in the IT, well, if your manager don't leave, you don't have a job. So,
Yeah.
so what would be the safe question? What would be the question that you can ask to understand? Because at the end of the day, if this company don't have the role for you, as long as you get a chance to do higher responsibility, expand your knowledge, expand your skills, and it's still a good job, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. If there's not a natural next step because it's literally your manager's job and that's it, definitely a good question is to say, I'm really interested in developing my skill set. Or if you've got a very specific thing you want to do, so say you're a finance assistant and you want to do your CPA, whatever it is, I'm really interested in doing some external study. Would the organisation support that? So they can support that either financially or they can support that with hours to allow you to study. And just be proactive about seeking those opportunities. The other thing is you can put your hand up and say, would it be possible to train me on some of the things that you do so that when you're on leave, I can more comfortably do some of the duties that you look after so that we don't have downtime? So it's a really proactive, positive way of saying, I want to expand without saying I want your job.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and definitely then in a medium or larger organisation where there is a natural progression, you can ask about, you can ask similar questions and say, look, I'm really keen to progress. I'm really enjoying the organisation. I've been doing this role for 18 months now or 2 years now, or whatever you feel like where you get to that point where you're comfortable and start to get bored. I'm really, really open to suggestions about what you think would be my next best step. And that's a good way of saying it too, because you're putting it back on them. You've obviously got ideas about what the next best step is, but if you put it back on them, then you're seeking their opinion. And people like their opinion being sought because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel, that they're the one in charge here or whatever. So it's actually a really positive exchange. So if you just say, I'm curious about what you think the next best step for me would be, they might have another idea. They might have seen you doing something very creative that you didn't even think was a strength of yours, but they think they need that in the organisation. So they'll develop that for you. Or it might be something more strategic, or it could be quite different. It could be a project-based thing. You might have shown some really good project management skills and they might want to send you on a course to develop that area. So they will see different things in you than you will see in yourself. So be open to asking them, what do you think would be a good next best step for me? Or where do you think I could develop my skills in this organisation?
Excellent. I like that. And sometimes I feel when you ask the interview question in the interview, apologize for the noise. My neighbor suddenly decided to cut the trees. Huge machine next door. And so that's the fun of working from home. And so I think sometimes reading between the lines is important, because sometimes the answer you get is very diplomatic. But often, like one of the students I coached on in terms of the opportunity, I asked him to ask this question, say, if I can exceed your expectation and do the job very well in the first 3 to 6 months, would you give me the opportunity to expand my responsibility to A, B, C? So be specific, ask for certain area you want to grow into. And the answer he got, the manager said, well, I wouldn't mind to do that, but you probably wouldn't have the time because we have high volume of transactions and you probably spend 95% of time just catch up with the backlog of work and blah, blah, blah. So that is alarming. Your manager is not someone don't care about your development, just simply the job itself only have transactional work and you wouldn't even have time to do that. Yeah. So that's another way you can read between the lines, and then you can decide, do I want to go into this job knowing most of my time will do repetitive and transactional work, or maybe I should go find another job that have more balance what I would do as a repetitive work, do I have opportunity to expand to other areas?
Yeah, absolutely. And definite alarm bells on that. I mean, the other way, though, to counter it is, depending on how brave you're feeling, is saying, okay, I hear you. Can you can you tell me or talk to me about why there is such a backlog of work? So it might be a genuine reason that they've just had a merger with another company and there's all this stuff they have to do. Or it might be that someone just fell sick and they haven't been able to recruit for 6 months. There can be some genuine reasons why these things happen. So first of all, before making assumptions, I would ask the question, I would say that, oh, wow, that's interesting to hear. I'm curious, why has the work become so backed up, or why has it gotten to that point? Wait to hear what the answer is. If it's still alarming, then you can say, okay, that's great, thanks very much, and move on.
Run.
Fast. Yeah. Look, and the thing is, there's always other opportunities. The really tough part is when you start to feel desperate about a job and you just think any job will do, because the point is it won't. Because if you're in that job and you're miserable, in 3 months' time, you'll be looking for another one. And that's exhausting and awful for everybody. You're better off trying to get it right.
Sometimes I use this as a metaphor. It's kind of fun. Say, remember, if you're someone already married, say, remember how you was dating. When you choose your ideal partner or girlfriend or boyfriend, would you just think anyone would do? Will you just try to sell yourself? No, you don't. You actually have a checklist in your mind. This person need to be honest, and this person need to be nice, need to be loving. I also want to share the housework. You have requirement. So make sure your requirement is clear and evaluate the job opportunity, the manager,
Absolutely.
the culture throughout the interview. Because culture is like a top dancing. Unless you go in as CEO, as CFO, you may not have a lot of impact to the culture in the short time. You will either learn to adapt, or you may better just find the culture you really enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. And culture is a huge thing. Back in the day, it was sort of a soft thing, and people used to talk about it, pay lip service to it, but not often, walk the talk. But nowadays, it's super, super important, because you could have 100, accountants lined up and they can all do the same work. They can all come out with the same numbers, but 99 of them aren't going to fit and one will. And the reason they fit is because they love a quirky, small, entrepreneurial, conservative, whatever the culture is of that business. And that you won't stay in a job if you feel miserable with the people around you, because they're simply not like you. And we all have balance. We're not going to walk into a large global organization and like everybody. That's not the point. But you will find a team and a small group that really support what you do, and that you support them, and you have similar interests, or you're at similar stages of life, whatever it is. And it's super important, because if we're not all going to be able to stay at home forever working. You do have to go into the office occasionally, and you've got to enjoy it. You've got to turn up, otherwise you won't do the work. It'll be miserable.
Exactly. Totally agree. And also it's like sometimes you think about 9 to 5, such long hours you're going to spend if you're in the office with these people. If you're not in the office, online with these people. Yeah. If you don't like them, you will be miserable. It will be horrible, But the thing is, I would say, find some way you're celebrated, not some way you're tolerated. So the way you can be celebrated is at least you have to show them what you love to do, who you are, what your values are, not just hiding behind, a facade self or shell.
Yes.
Otherwise, people can't evaluate if you're going to be like one of them. And you can't even evaluate if they're going to fit in your liking or not.
Yeah. And it's all about asking good questions. Exactly. I keep saying that in these, in the interview coaching I've been doing. Of course, you're there to be evaluated, but you do have to switch that balance just a little bit toward the end. Most people will always say, have you got any questions for me? Like, go hard, ask those questions, really dig in there, really dig in there, because it also shows a proactivity and a curiosity, which is a positive thing. It shows that you've been thinking about the organisation, like you might have read something on their website and been really curious about They might have a giving back program, some charity they support. They might have some, a graduate program which you can help support in some way. Like, there's all sorts of things that you can find out about, but ask those questions. Get them talking so that the switch of, like, the balance of power has switched. And that's a really important thing, so that you're not just leaving as the one who's been absolutely drilled and you're feeling drained when you leave the interview.
Exactly. That's one of the strategy I told a lot throughout the years. Like, you actually need to change the interview, become a two-way conversation, not just you're there, like you're being interviewed, you're being tested. So if you can change that into two-way conversation, and you can even ask questions along the way, people actually get a sense of how you work, how strong you are, how assertive you are.
Yes.
And it's easy to help someone who is like technically strong. It's easy to help somebody to stand out in the interview, because people not only can see they're technically strong on the resume, but also can see they have that confidence to take on any challenges at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you got a limited time today. I just asked last question, because when we talk about asking questions in the interview, sometimes people worry about to say, oh, what if my question is not appropriate? Can I ask this? Can I ask that? We both coach a lot on have the curiosity. If you ask the question, showing you're curious about the answer, you're curious about the business and the opportunity, it's usually very safe. Can you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, I think there's no harm in seeking information from somebody who is trying to sell the opportunity to you. It should be a two-way street. You're trying to sell yourself, obviously, into the job, but they need to sell the organisation to you, because how do they know that you don't have 3 or 4 other fabulous opportunities with their competitors, right? And I know that a lot of your students do end up in competitive situations where they've got all these different offers on the table and things going on.
Yes, totally. I had more than one students getting like 6 or 7 offers to choose from.
Yeah, which is amazing, and it's wonderful. And so an organisation equally has to sell themselves to you. And I definitely know this as a recruiter, because they don't tell the candidate that, but they'd tell me. They're like, I really, really want them. What else have they got going on? What can I say to get them over the line? Right. So they are heavily, particularly in certain markets, of course, they are heavily going into bat to get the right candidate into their organisation. So you should never feel bad about asking more good questions, asking about the culture, asking about the turnover, asking about, are there any plans to merge, to acquire businesses, to grow, to shrink? What's going on in the organisation? Ask, if you don't know much about the industry, ask the question. You might be in a function like finance, for instance, which can work across multiple industries. And you don't always have to have industry experience to be the right candidate, because if you're really good at your function, it doesn't matter if it's a zoo or it's a shop or it's a lawn mowing business, right? You still need that function going on. So ask about the industry. Say, who are your competitors here? How do you differentiate yourself? What's the plans for growth here? Are you looking at bringing in new products or service lines? Because all of those things will impact you, whether you're a salesperson, a marketing person, a finance person. They're all going to impact your opinion of the business, but also quite possibly your role in the business. If you're in there as a salesperson and there's currently, 2 major products that they're selling to one very niche industry, but they say we're actually bringing in a whole range of new products over here, that's going to mean either A, you're going to get super busy in the next 6 months, or B, there's going to be all this growth and new opportunity. Maybe I'll be the team leader if I come in here and do really well here. Maybe there's opportunities to grow a team out of this, or whatever it is. And so again, that can lead to other questions. If you ask about new product lines coming in and they say, yep, there's all this happening, your follow-up question should be, well, what does that mean for the salespeople in like maybe the current salespeople? What would that mean for me if I came into this role now? Is there growth opportunity there? So you can start to see career path things happening. So just always asking good questions, and again, active listening, just as they should be to you. Well, what does that mean for me then?
Yeah.
Ask yourself that. What does that mean for me? And then ask those questions.
Yes, I think here there probably is a little bit culture misunderstanding. If someone comes from Chinese background, they often feel ambition is a negative word. They think if I show I'm too ambitious, people may not like it. So maybe next time we have a chat about ambition. We have a chat about how you can be the CEO of your own career and empower people to really take on the control of their career. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great.
Thank you, Joe. Let's finish for today.
Great. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Take care. Bye.
Bye.